All right, so let me just first off welcome all you guys to Jupiter. It's always a exciting time. You know, I don't want to dwell on 2023, but obviously getting here and starting today, I think we can officially put it in the rearview mirror. And I think like everybody inside, players, coaches, staff, everybody's excited to do that. And so we certainly welcome 2024 in a fresh way. And also, I think when we look back at our offseason, we definitely felt like we were able to accomplish a lot. When you look at our 40-man roster, we had 15 new additions, so it's close to 38% turnover of that roster. And obviously, coming off the year we had, we felt that was important. And you know, as we begin anew today, you know, there's going to be some fresh faces. There's going to be real competition in this camp, and we think that's healthy. Meeting with the staff yesterday. They're you know, super excited to get this going, and so we're ready to go. A couple quick updates real quick on Middleton. Kanan Middleton will not be at camp today. He's dealing with a stomach bug. And then I also wanted to just touch on Yadier Molina, given the fact that his season at Puerto Rico just ended. We're going to give him a few weeks before he actually reports, so that'll be more of a TBD, but I'll certainly keep you guys abreast when that happens. And it'll probably parallel when the minor leagues are going as well, so he can double dip. But at this time, I'll be happy to take questions from everybody but you. No.
You talked about getting veterans who've been there, done there before, leadership. How nice was it to see Sonny Gray, you know, very vocal yesterday, had others watching him. He said, you know, I'll take questions from anybody, to be that vocal leader that you've kind of been looking for.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we were hoping to see, and more important, that's who he is. You know, you don't want someone to have to do something they're not comfortable doing, and you know, I think the one thing about him, anybody that got to watch that bullpen yesterday, he's almost like someone that's just like sort of articulating what he's about to do, what he wants to see done, and he then grades himself, like if he did it well or not. And I think, like, you know, having someone being able to like talk through something like that, it's a lot easier for other people to learn and how he's thinking, and I think that was something that resonated well with our pitchers.
Mo, what do you need to find out, or tell yourself, I'd like to find out about this ball club during spring training?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us is really going to be our health. And I've probably said that for the last 17 years when we open up camp, but that is going to be critical. But when you look at our everyday club, we have a pretty good idea of what that's going to look like. But there are some health question marks as we enter this camp. Then the other part of this is going to be, you know, how do we put our bullpen together? How does that line up? But I think a lot of this will have an organic feel to it and allow time to happen, and then we'll see what we look like.
When you look at your starting rotation, one of the things I think you guys look at is depth, because you guys have had to utilize your depth before. Do you guys feel you have enough depth there? Who are your main depth pieces?
Look, I think you always are going to be able to question depth. You're always an injury or two away from that being truly tested. But when you look at our starting five, we feel pretty confident about that group. But then you also have guys like Libator and Thompson that I think could do that as well. John Rahm is someone who started games for us last year. So, you know, we do feel like there's, you know, 8, 9, 10 names that could fill that void if we needed to, but additional to the 5 starters. But, you know, I hope that our 5 can go.
Mo, with respect to your bullpen, you bolstered the bullpen with as far as setup guys and people who can bridge it to another inning. What about other closers being in the competition?
Well, I think we do have other guys that can close, but obviously Hells is going to get majority of that. We saw how Romero performed at the end of last year, so we're excited about that. And then Kittredge is someone that's pitched in any inning. So, you know, we do feel that gives us some flexibility.
I know you have former Cardinals coming back, Lance Lynn, Matt Carpenter. What's that going to do? I know Matt Carpenter's already reported here because he wants to be here, see these faces. What does that have to do and think it will help bolster for this offseason?
Well, I think it's meaningful that we have people that want to come back here, you know, especially after the year we had. I mean, you could argue that maybe people didn't want to be here. But I do think St. Louis Cardinals are still an attractive place to be. I think Carp and Lance are guys that had a great experience when they were here, and they're looking forward to being positive additions as we move forward.
Mo, that phrase is something we've used quite a bit, that want to be here, even with guys who haven't been here before. When did that come on to your desk as something to?
That was relevant or important.
Yeah.
Probably about 20 years ago. I feel like it's like something that has always been, when you look at over the course of those years, like some of the decisions that we've made that have been positive versus negative, there is definitely a common denominator of people that truly want to be here. And as you guys can all imagine, in the free agent world, proxy tends to be dollars, right, or years and dollars. Whereas, there are times where people just truly want to be a part of this organization, a part of the St. Louis community, and it usually ends much better that way. And so when we entered this off season, we didn't go in strictly trying to chase that or look for that, but it was something that was definitely underlying. And when it showed up early, that's how we were able to get these deals done in the timely fashion that we did. I mean, as you're standing here today, the free agent market is still going, right? And we were able to find players that wanted to be here, and we're able to get them to agree to deals really right around Thanksgiving.
One of the ways you used to, not that you used to, but you still may, but approach that was get them here, make them want to be here. It seems like that kind of, the equation did shift to like, you haven't been here before, you want to be here.
That's fair, but one was right in
Right,
Lance.
But two-
One had didn't live too far
Sure.
from Busch Stadium, which was helpful, and two, or the third one in Sonny Gray, I think he just had a lot of positive experiences when he would visit St. Louis as a visiting player, and so. Living in Nashville, I think this was something that was very attractive to him and something that he wanted to do.
Do you feel that that's like a tangible thing, like if they want to be here, that makes you connect, or that makes the rebound quicker? If that makes it, like, how does that tie together? The notion that like last year was an outlier, these guys can help us get better. And what role does that play beyond just like their skill?
Well, certainly skill matters, and it's very relevant. But we also do want people that want to be part of this community, the St. Louis community, and I think that's important. And, like we have had times where we've had players that end up signing here that they don't find that comfort in the community or maybe as welcoming as others. And, hopefully that bridge has already been crossed, and these guys know exactly what they're getting into.
Well, when you talk about the way that health might impact the roster, is shortstop an area where maybe you all would pretend to assume depth even still at this point in the spring, given where Tommy's at and where Donnie's at, kind of in this rehab as well?
Yeah, I think we'll be a little bit more organic than just necessarily trying to run after something at the moment. But as time goes on, we'll have a much better sense of where Tommy's at. We'll have a much better sense of who else we think could backfill there. But obviously, Mason Wynn's going to get a lot of opportunity there. I mean, the bigger question is can he remain healthy throughout camp?
Well, when you look at rosters coming into camp, sometimes it's a really open, competitive roster, sometimes not so much. It seems this year that you guys have most of your positions set, relatively speaking. Is there anything outside of the bullpen that you find might be competitive in terms of final spots?
Well, I do think the answer is yes. I do think there is real competition at some position player spots, and also when you're starting to fill out your 40-man or your 26-man roster. So none of that's set in stone yet. And as we just touched on, health's going to matter and dictate, where some people fall into all of that. But there is some uncertainty on what our everyday lineup will look like when we get to opening day. Now, over the next couple weeks, month, we should have more clarity in that. But I do think there are guys in this room today over the next 3 or 4 weeks that are going to get a lot of opportunity to show where they're at.
Hey Mo, when you look at the team, what attributes give you confidence that you can win in the playoffs? What attributes of your team excite you? You're ready to go.
Very presumptuous.
That you'll make the playoffs?
Right. Like in terms of I think when you sit in my seat or you're part of this team, you have to go out and day one start proving yourself. In terms of how you think we're set up for October, I definitely think someone like a Sonny Gray can definitely be an opener and take that game one, which is important. I think the overall depth of this team, ability to score runs, getting back to the things that we are traditionally good at, defense, base running, and the core. I think our everyday club feels like it could be a very strong October team.
So what were your conversations like with Lance Lynn? Last season was kind of a rough one for him. 2 spots, home run ball was. What was the conversations with you believing that he still has a lot left and him thinking he still has a lot to give?
Well, I think a couple things. One is, he's a very confident man. He understands that last year there were some things that he was probably doing that he should have gotten away from sooner. And, hopefully from a coaching standpoint, from a strategic standpoint, those are things we can walk through. He's certainly open-minded to it. He's very understanding that those things existed. I think he would tell you that he fell in love with trying to throw that sweeper slider, probably a little bit too much. So making those adjustments, making those changes, I think will get him back to where he needs to be. Still has the arm strength, still has that fastball that's tough to hit. And, like we want to do with a lot of people in this camp is do what you're good at and keep doing it.
Hey Mo, when you look at Paul Goldschmidt, obviously his, if you will, regular numbers were down, but if you look at, of course, some of the advanced stats, the batted balls, it's encouraging, I suppose. In your own words, can you describe your thoughts about Paul going into the season knowing those stats?
Yeah, I think a lot was made out of last year. We understood he was coming off an MVP year the year prior, and there's certainly expectations or understanding that there could be some regression. And, I do feel like there's probably some happy median in there, but, I think he's still an amazing talent, incredible teammate, and, when you look at this club, I mean, he's one of the, true glue of it. And so seeing him in camp will be great, and expectations for him are high, but we're also being reasonable.
Your starting pitching rotation projected is, I think, the oldest in the major leagues, or at least one of them. Is age a concern, or is it the effects of age, or are you not concerned at all with having guys that are all over 30?
Well, unlike our upcoming election, I am not overly concerned with age in this current state. But so I do feel like what we missed a lot last year was more experience, and so trying to tie age and experience together usually is pretty common, and so going down that path, we knew that was likely where we were going to end up.
Although there's age associated with the rotation, what do you make of just the durability, like the kind of the workhorse attributes of some of the pitchers that you obviously went out and targeted, maybe sort of as a result of kind of having to use a bunch of different arms last year, just the durability of the guys you got?
Kind of the results of life. Factual. No, I think like that was something that we talked about really back when we did the press conferences in late November. It's just guys that understand what it's like to go pole to pole, the understanding of what it's like to have to take the ball 30 starts, and all of these guys have been through that. They understand it, and that's just going to be really helpful too with some of our younger pitchers that are trying to get to that point. And so I think from the aspect of just mentoring, helping teach, coach, but also the fact that they've done it is helpful.
Whether compare and contrast that approach with the rotation versus what you then did with the bullpen. The rotation is guys who have been there and done that, and veteran guys, even like the addition of Matt Carpenter adds that to the bench.
Mm-hmm.
But in the bullpen, not a whole lot of experience, not a whole lot of familiarity, even with the roles you might put them in.
Yeah,
Some of them not been in the majors.
I think it's I would say like adding Kittredge and Middleton brings some level of experience.
Okay.
I think like when you start to like weigh in, like where do you go from like a young player to someone that has like experience? I feel like a guy like a Tommy Edman, for us, for example, is someone that is flipping the script now from just someone that is someone younger, contributing, but now someone who can help invest in others as a player. And do I know Kittredge and Middleton on a personal level? No, but I also have heard really good things about them. And my conversation with Kittredge after we traded for him, I mean, it just sounded like you were talking to an adult, like someone that was, just giving you a straight shot, excited to be here. So I do think there's a little bit more experience than you might be giving us credit for. Okay. But you also have to understand, like these are all, subject to market negotiations and where things go. It wasn't like we were trying to avoid going down that path, but this is where we ended up.
Do you have an update on Tommy Edman, or how he's progressing? We talked to you about him in January. Where is he now that he's here in Jupiter?
He's cleared to do a lot of baseball activities, but I think one place where it'll be a little bit slower is A, throwing, and B, hitting. but there's a progression plan in place, and we'll just see how that goes as spring unfolds.
There's a lot of older guys with track records who are looking for bounce back seasons. What's the comfort level that most, if not all, of these guys can have those kind of years?
Who are the guys you're referring to?
Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Miles Michaelis, Matt Carpenter.
Okay, so I thought you meant guys required, but I feel like all these guys are like uber talented, right? I think last year when our season didn't go as we were hoping it would go, I think a lot of pressure was put on individuals to try to do more than they really could or should. The theme of this camp is forget about last year. This is anew, and just be yourself, because these guys are super talented. So I think the belief we have in where these gentlemen are at their stages in their career are still where they are all-star caliber type players.
Mo, specifically with Michaelis, what sort of things do you guys feel like give you confidence that last year was just one of those years as opposed to a start of something maybe like a downturn or something?
Well, I think like Michaelis, when he's at his best, where's the ball? On the ground, right? And that's what he needs to just get back to. And, if we see that early, I think that's a really encouraging sign. If we don't, then we got to make some adjustments.
Mo, Jim asked earlier about the starting depth. In regards to Libby and Zach specifically, what does the roadmap for their spring look like, and where do you all come to a decision point in terms of what they might give you in the rotation versus what maybe you're a little more confident they can give you in the bullpen?
Well, I think early on, these guys are going to get a lot of opportunity to get innings. There'll be a strategy in place on how we use all these. I think we start with a split to open, so we're going to need innings right away. Bless you. But I think as camp unfolds, we'll determine like where their roles end up. But we don't know today because it could be in the rotation.
I mean, is it too simplistic to say that for those two guys, this spring could be a determiner of kind of where their career paths go? Because both of them have provided for you out of the bullpen. Both of them have been a little more uneven as starters.
No, I wouldn't agree with that statement.
Okay.
Do you start with a 6-man rotation because you got 8 games in a row?
We are debating it, but I don't know if that's what we'll do. Because a lot of these guys would prefer to be on 5.
Sure. Yeah. What other than Packy and Middleton, you said has the stomach virus. So are there any pitchers that are behind?
Not that I've been told.
Okay.
Have you noticed anything?
Oh, I thought we were done.
I was so close.
God.
Yeah, just anything.
Ben gave me the look.
I know, I thought we were done too. I was like, here.
You mentioned seeing the way Sonny was out there performing and vocal and all that stuff. Is there anything else just leading up to the camp out here that you've seen that's either impressed you or surprised you?
I would say just the energy in the sense of like a lot of guys are coming in here, they understand the urgency, and I think anybody that was a part of this organization last year is just happy that we're not in last year. So, we're starting fresh.